Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. You're welcome to today's conversation on the topic around fraud and corruption. How best do we manage it? A lot of statistics that we've looked at from the African Development Bank, the UNECTAD, UNECA, have cited quite alarming figures, estimated at around 8 billion in terms of financial losses through financial illicit flows linked to fraud and corruption. Now, if you imagine this is the money meant for our classrooms, the money meant for our clinics, our roads, and various infrastructures. So today's program reminds us that fraud and corruption continue to undermine our accountability, weaken public trust, and also divert resources from national development priorities. We have a team of experts and PFM practitioners who will be able to share with us on how best do we tackle this. But before we go into that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to bring in the Chief Executive Officer of the African Association of Accountants General, Mr. Frederick Riaga, to give us some brief opening welcome remarks. Mr. Riaga.
Thank you, Bruce. To our colleagues joining us this afternoon, let me start off by saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever parts of the globe that you are joining us today for this month's webinar on the very topical issue of corruption and fraud. Bruce has alluded to some sad state of affairs, more so from the African point of view. A lot of the statistics paint a picture of close to 100 billion being lost. And is rightly indicated that this money would have otherwise gone into providing essential services that are most needed by the vulnerable societies within Africa. And hence, I think a time has come for Africa to come face to face with this menace called corruption. And as accountants, therefore, we must be leading in public discourses on such topical issues. Strangely, when you do correlation between corruption perception survey perception and against developmental indices, you would see negative correlation. Where corruption is rife, then the quality of life is then reported to be really low. Where corruption is low, then you'd find quality of life rated really high. And the classical case would be look at the topical African country and compare that to a Scandinavian country, for instance, where corruption perception indices are really low. You'd find the per capita incomes of those regions in the range of between 48 to 60,000 USD. And the grim picture for Africa is per capita GDP incomes would be in the range of hundreds of US dollars. Strangely, when you then further look, the Mo Ibrahim assessment of governance across Africa or across the globe also tells us of a totally different thing. In the top 10, not a single African country is listed there. In the bottom 10, 7 out of the 10 last players in the governance assessment report are from Africa. And then this therefore means that Africa is on the wrong trajectory. We must then find ways and means of dealing with corruption, which not only steals from our livelihood today, but it's stealing from the livelihoods of our children into the future. Corruption and illicit financial flows has been reported as stealing, as I've indicated, stealing and erodes our capacity to secure our future and the future of our children. And consequently, this is why the AAAG today felt the need for us to sensitize accountants and what roles can we play to position Africa better. The focus of our session would be how systematic is corruption and what red flags we need to look out for through what mechanisms, the mechanism of systems of internal controls, and what anti-fraud measures can we put in place just to ensure that we are then able to identify corrupt deals and stop them in time. Bruce has indicated that we have a team of 3. We will receive a presentation from Mr. Jack Oyaga, the CEO of Fraud Examiners, this South African chapter. Then we'll receive country experiences from Botswana, how far they have institutionalized systems to help curb the menace in Botswana as well as Somalia. So ladies and gentlemen, let's lead at the front as we talk matters corruption. Let it not be a talk. Let us be seen as putting in place measures to ensure that we bring these menace to a halt. We cannot talk of development until there is demonstrable efforts at lessening the impacts of corruption and fraud in Africa. And with that, colleagues, I wish as well, even as we navigate through this critical presentation today, I thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. And indeed, to help us leading from the front on the topic fighting fraud and corruption is a seasoned legal and forensic professional with more than 2 decades of experience in fraud risk management, forensic auditing, and compliance. He began his career as a legal advisor at the Absa Bank before moving on to senior investigative and risk roles at the Road Accident Fund and Hallard Insurance, where he honed his expertise in fraud detection, forensic investigation, and process investigations integrity. His name is Mr. Yako Deyaga, who has been Chief Executive Officer of the Association of the Certified Fraud Examiners South African chapter. He has accomplished academic, is an accomplished academic and practitioner who holds a Bachelor of Law and higher diploma in forensic accounting and is a certified fraud examiner. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to join me in welcoming these respected thought leaders who will be joining us and sharing with us insights on how do we address this stage. Yaga, over to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing this experience also with the ACFE. I'll be sharing my screen. If you can just confirm on your side that you are seeing it, please.
We're able to see it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Right. So I've been asked to talk a little bit about, well, let me start off by saying good afternoon, everyone, morning, evening, as well as whatever time it might be for you all. So really a privilege to have the discussion. My face should not be a new face to you because the relationship between the AAAG and the ACFE started some years ago when it was still known as ESOC and the ACFE SA and the ACFE. Something that we are very proud of, the working relationship. I will be talking a little bit about giving you some background. I've given you 2 links in the chat box. You're more than welcome to get the information directly from there. I'll be referring to the report to the nations, which is a global report, but also broken down per continent, and in Africa, in Northern and Sub-Saharan Africa. So if you want to get statistics, more than welcome to get the information there. And then I've also shared the details of fraudweek.com, where a lot of the information, the tools that Bruce and Frederick spoke of, can also be at no cost be retrieved from, so that you can have some tools that you implement within your organization as well as those that you work with. I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact of fraud. I've seen, I think, if I remember the name correctly, Tsepo, you asked, is it in dollars or what currency? All my amounts go back to dollars as just a normal number or currency that we can work with. I'm going to talk about the impact of fraud, and then we're also going to look at the way forward, some tools that you can use, some red flags that stand out, something that Frederick referred to, and Bruce. So I'm going to also deal with that. Fighting fraud is not new to Africa, it's not new to South Africa, it's not new to the world. In the past, we had in South Africa a president who said that you don't get corruption, you don't get fraud. It's a Western concept. Compliments of the wording from Mr. Zuma, at that stage, President Zuma. Fraud is not something that we can just brush off. We see it here on our continent, we see it globally. We've seen it with the Viva scandal, we've seen it with the Volkswagen scandal, we've seen it with the KPH scandal here in South Africa. We see it taking place in every sector, private and public. So it is something that's eating away at our countries, at our finances, at our people, like a cancer, and something that we need to stop. We can only stop it if we work together. When I talk about working together, I'm not talking about just me and you. I'm talking about the different professions, and I'm going to talk about professions and professional bodies as well. We need to be able to work together as professions in order to highlight fraud, as well as to point out those that is not doing their work. Steinhoff is a very, very good case study that we can refer to, where the head of internal audit was a chartered accountant. And the question that the internal auditors asked is, according to what standards are we going to hold this person accountable? Your accounting standards or your internal audit standards? Now, the law is very clear in the majority of the countries that we work with, saying that if you want to work or make yourself out to be an expert in a specific position, you will be held accountable according to that specific position. That's why it's so important for us to not only look at how we deal with this in order to protect the organizations we work for, but we also need to ask the questions, how do we deal with protecting ourselves? And that's one of the things that we need to look at as well. Various scandals that we can refer to. I know if we look at the audit side, the accounting side, one of the biggest penalties that I've seen being laid upon a firm, well, I'm not talking about the firms that had to close down due to Enron and the likes, but one of the biggest penalties is a $1 billion fine that was against PwC in Mexico for not picking up that there's irregularities, and also not disclosing to the shareholders that they need to liquidate the organization. So the shareholders took them to court, and so we're going to talk about fraud, and we're going to talk about corruption, we're going to talk about asset misappropriation, we're going to talk about financial statement schemes, and I'm going to show you the fraud tree a little bit later. But all of them fall under this one umbrella, which is fraud. So let's look at the definition of fraud, and then we'll look at the elements of fraud. Fraud is an intentional act of omission designed to deceive others, resulting in the victim suffering a loss and/or the perpetrator achieving a gain, and usually it is monetarily. So if we look at the elements that we usually need to prove, as there needs to be misrepresentation, or there need to be omission. So what do we mean with omission? If I can use a simple example, we all have, for instance, insurance. We want to cover our car, we want to cover our health. I'm not telling my insurer that I've got cancer or that my car's been involved in a previous accident. Then I try to cover that car and I don't pay the premium I'm supposed to pay. That is leaving out certain information. That's omission. So that's by one party to another, where the other act on that misrepresentation or omission to his detriment. Now that detriment or that loss can be potential loss or actual loss. Now let's give you a very good example of potential loss is where I get the SMS to say someone in my family passed away that I didn't know live. Pass away in England, they want to send money to me. Can I please provide them with all my account details so that they can transfer the money that I inherited into that? If I act and give my details and they clean out my account, that's an actual loss. If I do nothing and I report it, that's a potential loss. It still remains fraud. It does not take it away from the definition. So you can still open a case and you can still go after a person who tried to mislead you. Occupational fraud refers to the use of one's occupation for personal enrichment through the deliberate misuse or misapplication of the employing organization's resources and assets. Why do I put this in? I'm going to give you two more stats. The average organization loses 5% of its gross revenue due to fraud. Now, think of how much money flows through your business or your account. Trillions. Take 5% of that as a minimum and think of what is the ratio. How much money do you lose due to fraud? 64% of fraud is being perpetrated, whether in the public or private sector. 64% of fraud is being perpetrated by someone internally. And if we talk about IT-related frauds, your hacking, your EFT types of frauds. If we look at the selling of sensitive information, your IP, 91% of that fraud directly links to people working in the IT department. Now, the question we need to ask is, how much money do we spend to prevent fraudsters from the outside? And how much money do we spend towards putting systems in place to detect fraudsters on the inside and do fraud awareness training on a regular basis? Syndicates spend billions of dollars on systems, on processes, on ideas to defraud organizations. Now, I've listened to the first speaker, and you can look at Transparency International, and you can look at the report to the nation, which was actually compiled by CFEs. Now, CFE is like a CA. You do your work, you go and get your experience, you write international exams. There's 4 papers that you need to write, consisting out of finance, legal, investigations, and fraud deterrence. And then once you pass, you become a CFE, Certified Fraud Examiner. Now, they compiled the report to have a look at corruption and the corruption index according to us, the professionals. We've got 97,000 plus members globally. So this is the statistics that we came up with. Yes, we're not in the 70s yet, as you will see in the Eastern Cape, Eastern Europe and Asia. But if you look at the rest of the world, we're way up there. Something that is a concern that we need to look into. This, I think by now you should know what is the responsibilities of the AG and the Accountant General's Department. But I'm going to link this also direct to the rest of my presentation. It's there to manage government accounts, provide financial oversight, support transparency and accountability. That's why there's a lot of AG departments that's got their own internal investigative units, which is great. Duties include developing and maintaining public finance systems, managing cash flows, compliance with financial laws, etc., etc. I highlighted that because that talks to some of the other slides I'm going to discuss. I spoke about the fraud tree. This is the fraud tree that excludes ESG types of frauds. This only deals with the normal internal employee fraud schemes that you get. And there you can see what I spoke of. Fraud is the umbrella body. Under fraud, you get your corruption, your asset misappropriation, and your financial statement fraud. You cannot do a proper job if you do not understand each one of these categories and the subcategories. You don't understand what the elements is, you don't know where to go and look for these type of things, and also not how to prevent. So in order to specialize, one of the things that ESOC and now AAAG and us will be looking at is also looking at how we can deal with continuous professional skills development. As a not-for-profit, we're not in it for the money, we're in it for creating more awareness, collaboration, and drive more fraud fighters and globally. We want to also protect you and give you the opportunity to see this quicker fraud, and then also in doing so, be able to act quicker. The ACFE, like indicates, is a global organization. Our mission is to reduce the incidence of fraud by providing tools, regulating our members, as well as providing networking opportunities. The South African chapter looks after 8 other African chapters, and when I say look after, we actually administer them. We've got chapters all over Africa and actually all over the world, and we would love to see how we can link you into the local chapter, as well as get you and your staff to become CFEs. We work very closely together with the ISO committees. We sit on international panels there. We work closely together with COSO. We release the fraud risk management guidelines, something that you can download from our website. We also sit on the King Committee. We're busy now with releasing and finalizing and releasing King 5. And if you read the King report on good corporate governance, you will see that one of the things that's recommended by the King Committee is having fraud examiners within your organization. So what's a profession and what's a professional body? What's the duties that we've got? A profession refers to the disciplined group of individuals who adhere to ethical standards imposed by a profession and who hold themselves out as, by the public as, possessing specialized skills and knowledge in a widely recognized body of learning derived from research, education, and training. Being accountants, you fall within that profession. by specializing further, you become a specialist in the accounting profession. So that's why, if you look at what we've done with ESOC, with AFRSAI, with PAFA and the rest, is we have created forensic accounting standards, which provide you with the ability to specialize in as an accountant, and also get that extra curriculum underneath the belt. That gives you the opportunity to then belong to a professional body, which means any body of experts, expert practitioners in an occupational field, and includes an occupational body. Now, if you go again to the website that I gave you, ACFE sa.co.za, there's 11 standards that you can download there. Whether you want to become a forensic accountant or not, doesn't matter. But you want to appoint people having those skill sets, those 11 standard skill sets, to be able to work for your organization so that you can also improve the systems internally. We've drafted, and it's not South African standards, it's African. I already gave you the various bodies details. The SICAS, the NIPAS, the SIPAS, well, at that stage, ESOC, AFRSAI, and the rest, they all got together to draft international forensic accounting standards. We've got cyber standards and so much more. This is the minimum standard one should have in order to specialize. As a professional body, we need to provide training. We need to do skills development and provide technical knowledge. We need to be able to monitor and discipline our members in order to protect the public, but we also provide specialist tools like the ability to go and do a lifestyle audit in a person. The ability, we now just released a tool, not me, actually our members, AI tool for procurement that actually streamlines the whole procurement process and takes it away from people. So these are the type of things that we are looking at and helping our member organizations, and we would love to see how we can do this also through AAAG, but to help you make sure that the funds go where it's supposed to go without human intervention and influence. Now, fraud over the last decade has been coming down in numbers. And when I talk about numbers, I'm talking about the losses. Fraud losses have decreased, but that's because we are picking up fraud much quicker. If we look at the different organizations and what type of organization is most compromised, you'll see the private sector actually sits on top. A lot of people would think it's government. It's not. Private sector with the biggest losses as well. Public companies are 26% behind them, then government, then not-for-profits, and then your other organizations. So this tells us quite a clear picture of what also to make sure that we prevent the influence from private companies within the tender processes and within our organizations. What levels of government are victimized by occupational fraud? Well, if we look at national government, 47%, 29% state or provincial government, and then local government, 23%. How do fraud schemes vary by organization size? For me, this was extremely interesting. If we look at 100 plus employees and those organizations with less than 100 employees, corruption makes sense, doesn't it? The more employees you have, the more the opportunity to be involved in corruption, and the more also the pressures to perform and outperform the other departments and other people within the department, and therefore the higher percentage of corruption. And the same with non-cash type of scams. With all the others, it's in actual fact those who had least employees that saw more fraud being perpetrated within the organization. So for me, this is extremely interesting and something to take note of. if we look at the effect of fraud on organizations, you will see that the biggest median loss sits within mining, 550,000. Not sure if you can see my arrow here, 550,000. And then after that, you go to the manufacturing as well as your wholesale. And then you get to government and the other public administration institutions. What are the most common occupational fraud schemes in various industries? Well, you look at industries, banking and finance, that's where the money sits. Well, that and in government. So banking finance is way up there. And then you will see government. Look at the percentage corruption that outweighs in all the sectors. In all the sectors, corruption stands out. Energy, 60%, government, 52%. Now, I must ask the question, how can we expect our public to support us, to support government, if this is the picture that they see, that the possibility of you asking them for a bribe or being corrupt is 52%. That does not give and create public confidence. Fraud triangle is something, is a concept that you will find within our manuals, and we talk about it. Why do people commit fraud? Because of pressure or greed. There's an opportunity, and then also rationalization. Pressure, mostly because of the lack of controls in the environment that we work within. If we look at opportunity, it's internal controls that's not there. And we're not using systems like data analytics, and we're not using fraud risk assessment models. And then rationalization is all about training and awareness. If a person keeps on hearing it's not the right thing to do, then they will stop doing it. But that also they need to see us lead from management side. So how do we spot the fox among the hounds? We need to go and we need to know where the majority of the losses is going to be, as well as where the majority of fraud is going to be. The mere fact that you only have a 19% of owners and executives being involved with fraud does not mean your risk is lower. In actual fact, your losses is much, much higher because they've got access to the funds. How do occupational fraudsters conceal these schemes? Various ways. And you need to be able to spot it and to put the necessary processes in place to prevent it. So either conceal documents, providing false IT documents, online documents, create fraudulent electronic files, deleting electronic files. Some of them go as far as not even try to conceal anything. Do you know what to look for in a document? Do you know really what to look for in a financial statement? Do you know how to apply the necessary algorithms to detect fraud? These are the type of things that you need to ask yourself. You also need to be asking yourself, what role do you play as a professional? Because you are a professional, you're an accountant. As a professional within the organization and within the profession and your country. Why do you need to ask that question? Because there's a big chance that someone will come to you and say, listen, I want to blow the whistle. I want to talk about fraud. I want to give some information. 52% of the 43% tips that comes from employees. 21 from customers, anonymous, and others. Whether you're working in a normal audit department, whether you're working as an accountant, whether you're working in internal audit, the chances that someone might be able to come to you, do you know how to deal with that? Do you have a fraud response plan in place to take that information, keep it secret or confidential, and then also be able to deal with it or pass it on correctly? Who reports occupational frauds? I already gave you this information. What is shocking is the time frames it takes for professionals. These are not the people on the street. You're supposed to be a professional if you work in an accounting and auditing environment, for them to detect fraud. External auditors, 18 months. By accident, 18 months. So you've got just as well the same of chance of detecting fraud by accident than external auditors. Management reviews, 14 months. Occupational or documentation examination, 12 months. Internal audit, 12 months. These are the things that we need to start asking ourselves. Why does it take so long to identify? Why does it take so long to also process these type of things and take the people to court and go after the assets? The majority of cases why people commit fraud is because of the lack of internal controls, and then we also have the overriding of internal controls. Do we test our models? And do we apply professional skepticism? This is something that I am very passionate about. You cannot call yourself a professional if you don't ask relevant questions. So you are there to be and have a questioning mind. You're there to ask, what is the possibility of? Can this be? You need to test this against your knowledge and your expertise or experience. You need to understand that people's motivations and perceptions may lead them to provide biased or misleading information. Are you able to spot that? Some of the courses that we might be able to offer through AAAG is things like statement taking and statement analysis. Also, interrogating your financial statements. These are some of the courses that we're going to look at to help you ask the relevant questions and have this professional skepticism. You need to be able to apply your mind in all these departments to look for money laundering. Look at how many organizations are not looking for money laundering. 38%. If we look at environmental health and safety, 41% not even looking at that. Cyber side, 30%, HR issues. That's where your ghost employees and those type of people, those type of scam sets, 18%. So these are the type of things that we need to ask ourselves. Are we really a professional if we don't look at these things? Are we really professionals if we do not have these type of skill sets to do interviewing, look for open source intelligence, understand the legal implications of what we do forensic accounting, know what to expect from a cyber security investigation? You don't need to be a cyber expert, but you need to understand, and the guidelines and our 11 standards provide you with that. You need to understand what to expect from the person that you appoint that should be able to do these type of things for you. Frederick asked some of the controls that we can put in place. What is some of the controls? Well, have a code of conduct. Internal audit department, management reviews. These are the most successful controls that you should have in place. This should be standard. Do you even have a hotline service? Look at how many organizations got 71%. Yet 43% of all your frauds being detected that way. And it's by far the number one way of detecting fraud. Why is only 70% of organizations got this? And then I need to ask the question, if you are one of those 71% organizations that's got it, is it reliable and trustworthy? So can people report and really remain anonymous? We've seen so many people in South Africa being murdered this last year for leaking out their information as a whistleblower. How do we look at red flags? Well, go to ourfraudweek.com. This is their plus examples, but the majority of time still living beyond their means. I've seen the other day one of the fraudsters in a company invited the entire company to come and have a braai that was sponsored by that specific barbecue in English, that was sponsored by him for the entire company. Now, is that not a giveaway? Yeah. All the alcohol, all the meat, everything was sponsored by that person. Which HR related issues are most commonly experienced? Well, fear of job loss, poor performance evaluations, that creates the opportunity for them and drive for them to actually commit fraud. Warren Buffett indicated, and this is my second last slide, I'm running out of time. Warren Buffett indicated that you need to look for three things in a person: intelligence. Now that talks to what I said is professionalism and knowledge, energy, and integrity. If they don't have the last one, being integrity, don't even bother looking for the first two. You might be the cleverest person in the world. If you don't have integrity, it's not worth investing in that person. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone is doing it. Right is right, even if no one, I should actually put in there, no one else is doing it, because you should be doing the right is right. I'm glad we're talking about fraud. Thank you very much, Triple AG. I'm glad we heard from Frederick and Key that we should have a zero tolerance. Let's change the morals and values within Africa. Let's do the right thing. Let's hold other people accountable. That's why I gave you the definition. Holding people accountable is part of your mandate. Hold people accountable. Go after their assets. Make sure that we put them in jail. And let's be sure that we do what we expected to do. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yako Deyaga. Indeed, very insightful presentation there, with emphasis that fraud thrives where pressure, opportunity, and rationalization exists. Ladies and gentlemen, to drive us forward with this conversation, distinguished guests, we are privileged to introduce Mrs. Tebongo Tomango. She's the Accountant General of Botswana, a seasoned public finance leader with more than 30 years of service. She has been at the helm of major reforms, transforming Botswana's financial management landscape. She holds a Master of Science in Audit and Audit Management and Consultants from Birmingham City University, as well as she's a chartered public accountant. Mrs. Tomango has spearheaded implementation of various national reforms, including e-payslip system, delivering significant cost savings. She also superintendent over Botswana's Public Procurement Act review, and also oversaw the establishment of the new Public Procurement Oversight Institution. She championed the stabilization and optimization of Botswana's integrated financial management information system, where she led efforts in cutting licensing costs through system rationalization. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to welcome Mrs. Temango to share the country perspective in Botswana. Madam AG, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and good afternoon. Maybe I could just switch on my camera so that you can actually relate the face to the voice. And good afternoon. I hope it's afternoon, wherever you are. Good afternoon. And today's presentation, we want to share with you Botswana's experience in combating fraud and corruption in public finance. And we will basically take you through the overview and also understanding fraud and corruption risks in public finance, also share the risks and the challenges and Botswana's response to those risks and challenges, and also the legal and institutional frameworks that we have in the country, and also how we go about building vigilance through internal controls in the context of Botswana, and also the fostering of ethical compliance and institutional integrity, leveraging digital tools and audit analytics, and also our achievements and success stories. And taking from the previous presentation, we know that fighting corruption, it has become one of the priorities for policymakers and actors who are involved. This is exerted by the taxpayers on government because they want increased transparency and accountability in results management. So it is a major priority on the agenda of most countries and of international agencies also for development cooperation. Botswana stands as a relative beacon of good governance in Africa. However, this doesn't say that we are actually free from risks of fraud and corruption in the public finance. We also experience the same, maybe we can say at a lower level. So the journey is ongoing to ensure that we do combat the risks of fraud and corruption. And also we have achieved significant milestones in combating fraud and corruption. But there is need for continued improvement. And we will outline Botswana's strategic multi-pronged approach in terms of how we deal with understanding the evolving fraud and corruption risk landscape, also how to build the robust internal controls for vigilance, and also what is it that we are doing to foster a deep-rooted culture of ethical compliance, and also using digital tools and audit analytics, and also the risks and challenges faced by Botswana and the achievements and success stories, as I earlier alluded. And in understanding fraud and corruption risks, public finance in Botswana, it entails taking into consideration the following key issues. We have public procurement, where for us, it's a real sore point. That is where, like, when we talk corruption, it's basically centered on public procurement. Because in Botswana, the government is the main economic driver. Here we are saying that government in terms of procurement, that is where you get a lot of people wanting to do business with government, because government is the only one that has those big tenders. Government is the only one where you can actually get a high value, like procurement. So in public procurement, you would have issues of risk of collusion, bid rigging, inflated pricing, which we are getting, because if you look at a price that is being charged a government and a price that's being charged a non-government institution, it's very different, because government is being the government procurement, that's where you actually see inflated pricing, where you get an item for a certain amount, and then that same item, now if you are selling it to government, you get it for 5 times or even more. And also there are issues of conflict of interest in high value government contracts. We have a typical example where we have our CMS, or central medical stores. Here, this central medical stores, it's a government institution where they secure or procure medicines, drugs, for all the public hospitals and clinics, all the medical facilities. Their procurement is centralized. I don't know if you have heard of recent that we had reached a point a week or 2 back where virtually there was a disaster, or like we had a crisis in terms of medication and drugs. There was a dire shortage of medication and drugs in all our health centers. The president of the country actually had to intervene and bring in our defense force to actually task them with ensuring that the drugs are procured and they are actually distributed to the medical facilities. And here we are talking of procurement where there is no middleman, because most of the corruption, or most of even the overpricing, the inflated pricing, it happens because there is a middleman. You have somebody in between the CMS and the drug manufacturer. So with this current intervention by the president of the country, we are actually securing drugs right from the manufacturer. There is no middleman, and we have saved more than 50%. We also have leakages, a payroll, where you have fraudulent entries, where you have an employee or an officer being paid amounts that are not due, undue amounts, and where you have payments to non-existing employees. Basically, here you ghost employees, salary overpayments, where we are looking on an average of 27 million pula on an annual basis. And also we have the revenue collection leakages, where you have embezzlements, tax evasion, levies, and even the custom duties. And this embezzlement of revenue is actually very, very rampant, like where you get revenue collectors collecting, sometimes even understating the collection as per on the receipt. They would give the payee a receipt with the right amount, but then you find that the receipt that's meant for remitting the funds understated, such that they actually pocket the difference. And you'd also have issues of tax evasion, where everyone would or somebody will just try by all means to make sure that they don't pay tax. And we also have project management, especially relating to we have problems or issues in regards to project management, where you have this capital projects, your roads projects, your water projects, your rail projects. That's where you have real problems, because you find that people who are supposed to be monitoring the project before the payment is done, they don't actually go and inspect. They're actually paying for something that they've never even seen with their own eyes. And at that time when they say, let's go and check the project, you find that there has never been any project, but you have been paying a lot of money. And we also have issues of substandard work, where you have some buildings, some public buildings, which virtually have never been, they've never actually been used because they were not fit for occupation. We have a typical example of one police station, which is about 100 or so km from Gaborone, the capital city. That police station, it was built by a Chinese company. And, the police, they actually used that place for less than 12 months. And right now, it's just a white elephant. It's not occupied because it's actually it's a danger. It's a hazard because the walls are literally cracking. The roofs are falling. And we are talking of a million pula project. We also have social programs. That's here where we call government, we call them basket programs, where government is assisting the needy, is assisting the vulnerable. But you find that these funds, sometimes they don't make their way to the right people. They are hijacked along the way, or sometimes you actually have people who don't exist, but on a monthly basis, money does go out. And looking at the recent challenges, like we said, that Botswana has been known for good governance and ranked top 3 of least corrupt countries in Africa after Seychelles and Cape Verde. However, we still have risks or rising risks of the lack of transparency in some areas where you never got to understand how this thing was done, what actually influenced the idea, and also issues of nepotism, especially when it comes to procurement, where you find that a tender is not awarded on the basis of merit. It's awarded on the basis of it's my relative. So those are some of the issues that we are having in terms of corruption in Botswana. And looking at the perception index, which I believe, looking at the graphs, you can see that we actually rank next to Rwanda. And we would move on to the next and see how we are responding to all those issues relating to corruption. We have an independent or an autonomous department known as the Directorate on Corruption and Economic Crime, or the DCEC. And we also have the Auditor General, which is the external audits for government. And these two entities, they have been mandated to conduct risk mapping and provide guiding principles for the fraud and corruption risk mitigation. They conduct sector-specific assessments where they focus on high expenditure ministries or other items within the economy, where like critical sectors like health, your transport, your infrastructure, your energy, your agriculture. That's where they conduct those, specific assessments. We also have the legal and regulatory frameworks. Like we recently, as far back as 2 years back, we have enacted the Public Procurement Act of 2021, which basically moved away from having an entity whereby you had the executive also being basically didn't have a board that was separate from the day-to-day or the operations. So with this Public Procurement Act, we've actually come up with a public procurement regulatory authority, which has a board of directors. And this regulatory authority, basically it ensures the compliance of this Public Procurement Act. And this Public Procurement Act, it also applies to our state-owned entities. And we have the asset declarations where you'd have officers of a certain level, the executive, they are required every 2 years to declare their assets. And they should declare their assets in the event, even before the 2 years, if there has been a change in your assets. So you need to be declaring all the time. We also have what we call the Public Finance Management Act, and also the Proceeds and Instruments of Crime Act, the Whistleblowing Act of 2016, and many others. And we have had high-level prosecutions for fraud and corruption. We have cases that are actually ongoing in this regard. And like I indicated, we have all those acts, and also the Income Tax Act, the Financial Intelligence Act. The Financial Intelligence Act, it resulted in the birth of the Financial Intelligence Agency, which is domiciled at the Ministry of Finance. And they are responsible for ensuring that AML issues, FATF issues, they are being addressed. Because as you know, as a country, we were once grey listed and we wouldn't want to go there. So basically, we have this agency that is responsible for overseeing that. We have those regulatory authorities, our NBFIRA, which basically looks at the non-bank financial institutions, the Bank of Botswana or our central bank. We have the Gambling Authority, the Directorate of Intelligence and Security Services. We have the DPP, and also the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority that I was talking about. Maybe just to mention again in regards to the Public Procurement Act, that it gave birth also to the Public Procurement Tribunal, where because this new act, basically it gives the accounting officers 100% responsibility when it comes to decisions on procurement issues. So this Public Procurement Tribunal, it's there to actually address appeals where maybe somebody could have been aggrieved with the decision that was taken, maybe on the award of a tender. So they have that leeway to go to the Public Procurement Tribunal, or they can head directly to court. Basically, this was meant to ease the traffic, of procurement issues which were going to court and taking a long time at court. So with the tribunal, we have actually seen a speedy disposal of, public procurement issues. We also have our law enforcement, the Botswana Police, the DCC that I alluded later, and we have our BRS as well as the tax collector for government. We have also our oversight functions. We have our Auditor General, basically here. The Auditor General, who we know that is the external auditor for government. Also the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity, the Financial Intelligence Agency, the FIA, that I alluded to earlier. And we have what we call anti-corruption units within the ministries and departments. This is actually an initiative coming from the DCC, or the Directorate of Economic Crime, the economic crime, where basically they want to ensure that, they actually inculcate that culture of fighting corruption within the ministries, within the departments. So you have these units where basically they address issues relating to corruption within the ministries, within the departments. And we also have our Department of Internal Audit, which is also domiciled in the Ministry of Finance. So they also conduct assessments to provide assurance on the adequacy of the internal controls within the various ministries and departments. We also have oversight committees. These oversight committees, we have the Public Accounts Committee, which, as you know, is a committee of parliament made up of parliamentarians who are tasked with scrutinizing government finances and ensuring that public funds are managed effectively. And in the same vein, we have another committee, the very same as the Public Accounts Committee, but now this one, it deals with the state-owned entities or our parastatals. It's also a parliamentary committee. They are the CEOs of those parastatals. They are also called before that committee to come and account for the public finances. We also have the portfolio governance and oversight, where here it's the oversight and scrutiny of the elections, corruption and economic crime, the maladministration, and all that. And also we have the Government Audit Committee. This Government Audit Committee, it basically addresses, it's a committee that was formed after noting that when it comes to internal audit recommendations, most of the, you find that a number of internal audit recommendations are not implemented. So government took a decision to come up with an audit committee, government audit committee, made up of people who are independent from government. They sit and they can call accounting officers to come and appear before them to answer or address issues of non-response or non-implementation to internal audit recommendations. We, in regards to building vigilance through internal controls in the context of Botswana, like in any other organization, there is that regular reconciliation of government book of accounts, which I want to admit that right now we are not doing very well on it. It's something that we are working on. We are not doing good on it due to the challenges that we have been having with our financial and budgeting system. But it's something that we are working on, and going forth, we would want to ensure that all our government books of accounts, they're up to date. And then we also have the implementation of risk management across all the MDAs. We actually have a risk management framework which has been rolled out to all the ministries, all the departments. And also we have the clear procurement guidelines with transparency portals. Basically, this stems again from the Public Procurement Act, which basically spells out what's supposed to be done and what shouldn't be done. And one of the issues that maybe I need to share with you in regards to the improvement that we made when we came up with the Public Procurement Act was the, removing government officials from doing business with government. Because previously, in the previous act, officials or government employees could actually do business with government. And it was a real problem. Because much as it was indicated that if you couldn't do business in your own ministry or your place of work, but you could do business with other ministries. So we had a whole lot of collusion where I would contact the other ministry, I'll do business with you, you also give me a chance to do business in your ministry. So with this new act, we've actually removed that. There is no public officer who is allowed to do business with government. And also, the act also spells out that I cannot have my close relatives doing business with my ministry or my place of work. The other issue is the segregation of duties and approval hierarchies, and also the continuous monitoring and whistleblower protection, and also the strengthening of the internal audit functions, which are spread out throughout the ministries. Much as I said that the internal audit is domiciled at the Ministry of Finance, we have internal auditors who are seconded to the various ministries and departments. And for us to foster the ethical compliance and institutional integrity, we need to have a tone at the top that actually says we cannot tolerate corruption. And also have ethics and integrity training, ensuring that people understand how they should conduct themselves. And also this, the DCC, we should actually ensure that, the DCC is allowed to do their work without any, there shouldn't be any intimidation in terms of them doing their work. And also the asset declarations. That is something that should be done and should be done with earnest. And we have also leveraged on digital tools and audit analytics, where we are using these various tools to conduct anti-corruption investigations. Your Go Case tool, your Go ML, which here we do basically with anti-money laundering solutions. And also with the internal audit, going to the next slide, with the internal audit, we have the audit command language, or ACFE, where we have our internal auditors using that software basically for effective auditing. We also have whistleblowing platforms where you are able to report anything that you see as suspicious. There are platforms that give you that opportunity. And lastly, I would take you to our achievement and success stories, where yes, that's a strong reputation, and also our robust institutions, the DCC, the Office of the Auditor General, where they are able to function without any interference. We have currently now an ongoing forensic audit, because as you know that last year we had a change of government where after being ruled by one party for more than close to 48 years, we had a change of government. So there is a forensic audit that is ongoing currently for all government ministries, departments, and also in the state-owned entities. And we have those comprehensive legal frameworks which basically assist in fighting corruption and economic crimes. And also we have had, and we still have, high-level or high-profile convictions to demonstrate the operational capacity and political will to pursue complex cases. And in conclusion, this will just be a repetition that, yes, we consistently have been ranked among Africa's top 3. And yes, we would want to maintain that 3, but we wouldn't want to go like past 3. We should aim to go to number 1. So with that, thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions and comments, if there are any. And we are willing. I have a team that is also on the floor here. They will also engage when we get to the question and answer time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam AG, for that insightful presentation, sharing the challenges, interventions, as well as the success stories in addressing fraud and corruption in the Republic of Botswana. To move on, distinguished guests and delegates, allow me to invite our next guests. He's the Accountant General of the Federal Government of Somalia, where he leads national governance and reforms under Public Financial Management Act and regulations. He has over 2 decades of expertise in finance, auditing, institutional reform, with leadership roles at a premier bank in Somalia, as well as Kenya, and also Simad University. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abdulrahim Mohammed Anas has spearheaded reform in public PFM initiatives, including successful rollout of digital signature to modernize Somalia's payment processes through paperless system and advancing the roadmap towards IPSAS-based accrual reporting. His work focuses on strengthening fiscal transparency, internal controls, I beg your pardon, accountability in public finance in close collaborations with institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and regional partners. Allow me, distinguished delegates, to welcome Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed Anas, the Accountant General for the Federal Government of Somalia, as he shared the country experience from Somalia. AG Somalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bruce. You tried to pronounce my name well, but my name is Abdul Rahman. Good afternoon and also good evening, distinguished colleagues. Jago the Jagger from South Africa, and AG Botswana, and Triple AG leadership, CEO Fred, and the participants from across our African continent. It is my honor to be with you today And I also extend my gratitude to all participants who have joined us from across the continent and also other parts of the world. Your presence today demonstrates our shared determination to fight fraud and corruption in public finance. Fraud and corruption remains a major threat, as my other colleagues already presented, to public finance globally. Somalia's journey is one of transformation, moving from legacy bottlenecks to bold reforms. I will highlight 3 areas. First, regional trends that shape our environment. Somalia's turnaround experience and practical lessons for our collective fight against fraud and corruption. Recent studies, including the African Development Bank, show East Africa countries for a high share of procurement fraud cases. The study shows that 19 out of 59 sanctionable practices in Africa in 2024. The vulnerabilities are clear. Weak tendering, manual bottlenecks, and inadequate oversight. And the lessons are also clear. We need robust institutions, strong legal frameworks, digital solutions, and above all, political will and fiscal discipline. The Somali turnaround since 2023, when I joined to the Office of the Accountant General as the AG Somalia, has embarked on intentional reforms, embedding integrity at the core of public finance. We reduced unnecessary payment steps. I can recall that it was more than 24 steps. Now it is less than 10. Introduced clear, harmonized checklists to check payment processes, and also give public assurance that no facilitation fees are required. Most importantly, we embraced transparency first culture, where reforms are not just announcements, but systems that prevent corruption. A milestone reform was rolled out. These are the pillars that drive our what we did to prevent corruption, and we have promoted corruption-free branding across all communications. These are the digital transformation. As of 30th August last month, we have rolled out digital signature using public key infrastructure in IFMIS. In Somalia, we call SFMIS, Somali Financial Management Information System. This digital signature, we expect that it will enhance our payment processes using paperless from all MDAs to our offices. Remote MDAs processing fewer this will result fewer corruption touch points. The system has audit trails and also certificate governance. Each approval in the system, director generals from MDAs will get their certificate to approve the transaction into using a secure system. We have also transparency dashboards, borders in FMIS. Also, we have monitoring KPI and KPIs, real-time tracking of payment delays, and metrics drive accountability at each approval stages. We have happy to share this experience so far. Approval time reduced from 67 days. This is not what I just state, but this is a World Bank report. It finds that some of the projects is supported by the World Bank, that some of the payments took up to 67 days, and now it will take just 3 days and less, most of them within 1 day. These are our integrity pillars: ethical leadership and culture, segregation of duties. We have did a lot of internal controls related to segregation of duties and active controls, transparency in procurement, and also we have enhanced accountability and then sanctions for fraud and also corruption. And we expect that reduced corruption touchpoints, faster and more reliable services, strengthen accountability, increased public trust. And finally, integrity is more than words. We believe it is systems in action. Somalia's reform is the driver's leadership plus technology and plus transparency. We focus more about digital and to cope with fraud and also corruption. Next step, we hope to also digitalize procurement and digital archiving, and also we are moving to IPSAS accrual basis of accounting roadmap. We invite AAAG and other colleagues to just develop integrity toolkits. I thank you.
Thank you very much, AG, for that wonderful presentation and indeed inspirational progress that you've made in the journey to transform the PFM landscape in the Federal Republic of Somalia. You've identified, you've shared with us the harmonized checklist for payments, a reduction of approval times from 60 days to 3 days, and introduction of accountability at each approval stage. Very important here. Ladies and gentlemen, we now open the floor for questions from our 3 facilitators who have shared with us their insights. You could either type in or raise your hand and we'll be able to pick up on from you. Okay, Mr. Sidney Chiwekalasa. Mr. Kalasa, if you're speaking, your mic is off.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello.
Kindly go ahead with your question, Mr. Kalasa. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bruce, for the privilege to ask a question. I've listened attentively to the discussion, and basically my question is rooted to the first speaker, that's Jaco, on the fight against this corruption, which is a pandemic. 80 billion is too much a loss for personal gain. And we all know that basically this is coming from the very leaders who we have put into position to manage the resources. And we've been talking about it in our individual countries about this thing. Now, we have systems And obviously, we know that systems are there, but these systems are not followed. Leadership changes, and then also, again, it is an ongoing processes. We have looked through in terms of risk management aspects, which should be put in our.
Are you able to go straight to the question now?
The question is now, my question is that I think what should be the pragmatic way of fighting from insight from all the three speakers? What should be a very pragmatic way of fighting this corruption? Talking, education, I think it has not helped us. And of course, sensitization has not helped. So what do you think is a pragmatic way of fighting this corruption so that it can continuously reduce? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll pick another question. Okay, if there is none, we'll check in the chat box. Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, you're on mute. Please unmute and go straight to the question.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bruce. My question will be to all the guests or panelists. Will you say the adoption or the slow adoption of technology to government processes increase or decrease the chances of corruption happening? Thank you.
Mr. Grayford, Mr. Raymond Gray.
I want to thank you so much for the opportunity. I want to find out from Botswana, with the comprehensive legal legislations and comprehensive system that they've deployed, what is the political will in terms of the fight against corruption? Because we know that corruption thrives so much within the political elites because they govern. That is for Botswana. From the one that has just presented, the very last presenter, I want to find out what is the technical know-how in terms of computing for the class, for deployment of e-signature to manage the process of reducing payment processes from 67 days to a day or 3 days? How is the technical know-how in terms of computer for the class of people who work within the ministry, department, and agencies, and how they are able to achieve this feat? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take the first question and invite Mr. Jaco to speak to the first question. What can be done? Everything else has been done, training, education. What is it that is remaining? Mr. Jaco. Mr. Jaco, are you on the call? Okay, as we wait for Mr. Jaco, maybe AG, since the question was also thrown to the rest of the speakers, what is it that we can do? AG Botswana.
Thank you very much. Yes, like we said that we've talked, we've written, we've done everything. You know, for me, I would say we should continue talking and we shouldn't stop talking about corruption and teaching people what is it that should be done, or putting in place controls to, ensure that there is no corruption, because corruption will always be there. But for me, it's you trying to keep it at a very, very, very low level, because we know that in terms of erasing it completely, that's near impossible. But it's us keeping it at a low level. And even if it means going to schools, such that even in terms of the curriculum, we actually teach from a young age the bad effects, or the how bad corruption is. For me, it's about keeping it at a low level, and we should continue talking about it. We shouldn't give up, because talking more about it, teaching people, and then again, even taking action where corruption has been noted, corruption has been unearthed, action should be taken. Because if action is taken, it can actually deter corruption, but we know that it won't completely stop corruption. Thank you. I don't know if there's anybody from my team who's on this call who would want to add on. Team, Botswana? Okay, I think they're happy. Thank you, Bruce.
Madam AG, sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I was extending the question that you also cover on the question that was asked on the political will in Botswana to fight corruption.
Okay, yeah. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, I didn't want to comment on that. Yes, I would say in terms of the support, the will is there. The will is there. The will is there to fight corruption. But you know, like even within the political sphere, you would find those pockets, those politicians who would want to use their positions to actually access, things that are not due to them, or basically engage in corruption. But I would say the political will is there. That is why we have these institutions like your DCC, your anti-corruption units, and you'd have the Directorate of Intelligence Services, your FIA, Financial Intelligence Agency, and also even the Auditor General. The fact that they are able to function, they are able to perform without any interference. Actually, they do have a backbone. They are able to make sure that where even a high-profile case, they can take it to court. We have high-profile people that have been taken to court for corruption issues. So I would say yes, the political will is there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam AG. We've seen the hands, and I also wish to remind the attendees that one of the first speaker has just dashed out. He has a meeting that started off, so will not be able to take questions related to him. But allow me to move to AG Somalia. Sir, kindly shed light on one of the delegates has asked whether slow adoption of digital processes is exacerbating the scourge of corruption and fraud. And you also speak on the technical know-how in terms of the rollout of the digital signature that you shared, whether you have enough computers and other ICT facilities to roll out this process. Mr. Anasa.
Thank you. That's a good question. Before rolling out digital signature in Somalia, we were using both the system, IFMIS, and also the manual, both of them. And that would make him a bottleneck in payment processes. For example, our payment starts a form called warranty. That's releasing a budget allocation for the MDA. It is both in system and also in a paper. The MDA fills that form and sends to Minister of Finance, and finally comes to the Office of the Accountant General to approve the paper, and also in the system. Then after that, the MDA again prepares a forger for applying the payment, whether it is salary related or other expenses. Then again comes to our premises to get approved for the forger, and goes back. If there's there's a need for corrections, then again they start again. That was taking much time and inefficiencies. Then now we rely just paperless, using the IFMI system from MDA to the Minister of Finance and finally Office of the Accountant General to release the payment. And also we have harmonized payment checklists. And that checklist is every MDA and every project coordinator office has the harmonized checklist. They know what they are expected. They cannot be asked anything outside the harmonized checklist. And this also facilitated the payment process and an enhanced number of days from 6 to 7 days now to 3 days. And for the computers, every MDA has enough computers and they know how to use IFMIS from day one. We roll out the SFMIS in Somalia 2015. We are using the system in 1 decade, 10 years. They know the system. Just what we introduced is only a digital signature, a paperless, which we already experiencing and observing benefits. Hello, Bruce.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much, AG Somalia. And I've seen 2 hands from Mr. from Abdifata and Dora. I'll kindly get back to you. Let me just pick questions from the chat and then we'll get back to you. The first question reads, most of fraud and risk come from external parties. How government keeps to donor fund projects? Even the donors select the external audit to produce good reports. So how do you resolve this issue? Then the other one is, and I think that would go to both countries, what is the country's current approach to ethics compliance and how does it foster integrity in practice? My 2 AGs kindly attend to those 2 questions. AG Botswana.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Basically, I would say our approach is, like I indicated, that we have the framework in terms of the legal, and we have an office that actually deals with ethics and integrity. And I also indicated that in terms of declaration of assets, basically, that's expected of all civil servants at executive level. You are expected to declare your assets. We have a Directorate of Ethics of Integrity. Basically, we have an establishment that looks into that, and we have a law to actually back that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam AG. AG Somalia?
Ethics in practice is really a good initiative areas that we believe that can be a source of fighting for fraud and corruption. Here in Somalia, what we did is we branded our offices and also emails and all our documents corruption-free zone. You can see my presentation. If you remember, our office was branded a corruption-free zone, and everywhere in our offices, as Office of the Accountant General, you see a corruption-free zone. And not only that, even we continuously advise MDAs and also project coordinators that we no longer tolerate any corruption practices in our offices. And due to that ethical practices, we have seen a good return from all our stakeholders that they feel when they are in our offices, they are no longer to pay any tips and any facilitations fees and any problems. And also, we believe that improving concerns of delays in payments also is an initiative that can fight for corruptions, because every delays the stakeholders may just come in their mind that they are required to pay something. But when everything is automated and it is very fast, then the stakeholders then do not come in their mind that there is a need for just any facilitation payments. And those practices, we hope that other colleagues may learn from us, and we are happy to provide more if other colleagues come Somalia and we can show them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. AG. I now move to Abdi Fatah Osop. Kindly proceed to ask your question. Mr. Osoble Abdi Fatah, or is it Madam? If you're speaking, then you're on mute.
Is Master Abdi Fatah.
My name, yeah, I hear you. My name is Abdi Fatah Osoble. I am from Somali Special Accountant General Office. My question is how government protecting management of riding.
Sorry, come again, Mr. Abseli.
My question is how government is protecting management of riding.
Okay. Thank you. We go to Madam Dora Mwalija. Madam Dora, kindly proceed to ask your question. Madam Dora, you're on mute. We can't hear you. Okay, looks like we have a technical glitch from Madam Dora. Madam Dora, are you able to hear us? Okay, thank you. Then I'll pick another question from the chat. This one says, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Please, what sanctions are applied to individuals found guilty of misappropriating public funds? Yes. So I think then another one reads, thank you, Botswana, for the provision of solution on approach to ethics. Really appreciate. Okay, that's I think a compliment. So, Mr. AG Somalia, kindly pick up on the question from Mr. Osoble. Then, Madam AG, you pick up the questions on the sanctions that are applied to individuals found guilty of misappropriating public funds.
Thanks for the question. How government is protecting management of right, from Abdi Fatah Osoble, Somalia. This overriding is an issue which is affecting mainly public financial management acts. We have public management financial management act. Also, we have regulations, and maybe Abdi Fatah is as a concern. Sometimes there could be management overriding in the rule of law regarding of managing public financial management. But we do our best as Office of the Accountant General in Somalia to avoid any management overriding cases which at the end affecting how we manage public finance. And that's why mainly personally as Accountant General in Somalia, so far I can say that there is no override that I did since in my tenure in my office. My team knows me very well. Maybe some of them now hearing me, and also we discourage management overriding and also enhance effectively complying public financial management act and also regulations we have. For the second question, that the sanctions, one of participants asked that question. Here in Somalia, some officers were charged corruption cases in a court, and some of them they were relieved from their current positions and also instructed not to and claim again public offices for the result of the sanctions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. AG. AG, Botswana, as you pick up also in terms of what sanctions applied to individuals who are found guilty of such cases, also answer to the question, how do you ensure that your team, adhere to internal controls and also that those controls are robust and continuously vigilant, especially in the face of evolving risks? Madam AJ.
Thank you very much for the questions. The sanctions applied on individuals found guilty of misappropriation of funds, basically where it has been noted that there were corrupt activities, the issue would be referred to the DCEC or our Directorate of Corruption and Economic Crime for them to deal with. And also in issues of embezzlement or misappropriation, the police are also involved. So the law does allow for a process of the administrative and also the criminal or the civil to actually run concurrently. Basically, I would have referred you to the DCEC or the police, and I can also take administrative action against you, such that where there are those where I do take administrative action and you are found guilty as per during the disciplinary hearing, I can actually dismiss you. But that doesn't kill the criminal case that's with the DCEC or with the police. You would also be liable and you will be taken to court, and you will have to go through the court process. And where you are found in the administrative, yes, you can be dismissed. The Public Service Act, it actually details the fines or what is it that can be leveled against you in that kind of situation. And then with the criminal or civil, when you are going to the courts through the DCC or the Botswana police, like the law will take its course. You can either be imprisoned or fined. But at the end of the day, where it has been proven that indeed you did take the funds, government has a right to actually demand that you pay back the money or make good the loss to government. And we also have, you are talking about how do we ensure the team adheres to internal controls and how do we ensure that continuously There's that monitoring to ensure the robustness of the internal controls. We have our internal auditors. We have also, in addition to the internal auditors, we have within our Office of Accountant General what we call an inspections team. They actually go around all the MDAs checking compliance to the Public Financial Management Act, and they do issue reports on the lapses that they've noted, and where the lapses have been noted, the offices are expected to remedy those lapses. And also when it comes to internal audit, you know, they do have their audit plans. They do conduct the audits, the ministries, the departments. And we have what we call ministerial audit committees within the various MDAs. And where an audit has happened, where an auditor has come up with the recommendations and they are not implemented, they are taken to the Ministerial Audit Committee. Each and every ministry has that audit committee, so which is chaired by the permanent secretary within that ministry. Yes, you might say, yes, there could be conflict of interest, but at the end of the day, it's a management committee, and it actually helps the accounting officer to reduce the number of issues that could be picked by the Auditor General when they come. So that conflict of interest, really, it shouldn't exist. So we have that audit committee, and where now the audit committee is not able to influence the implementation of the recommendations, or the audit committee is not that active, those issues now, they get picked by the Government Audit Committee. Now is where now the accounting officer is called before that Government Audit Committee, which I indicated in my presentation, that it's actually composed of people who are not working in government, basically independent from government. So the accounting officer now has to appear before the audit committee. So I would say even management on a daily basis as expected, because at the end of the day, management is the one that should set the tone when it comes to the control environment within the various functions. So management should on a daily basis, on a periodic basis, be actually ensuring that the controls are in place, they are robust, they are working. So that is how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam AG. And I think we'll take one more last question on how lack of resources impact on corruption, and also how overstaying of accounting officer influence fraud and corruption. AGs, as you conclude, kindly answer to that question. I'll start with AG Somalia.
What I believe is that accounting officers may be influenced in corruption practices if the leadership is missing. The core pillar here we have is the leader. If there is a leader who is committed in fighting and protecting the team to involve in corruption, then there may be a good environment for corruption. We are guided in our values, and our Prophet said that everyone is responsible, and everyone will be asked about those under their care. That means a worker is responsible for what she is given, and all of you are responsible, and all of you will be asked in this world and also in hereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, AG. Madam AG.
Thank you very much. Lack of resources impacts on corruption. Yes, I would say yes. The lack of resources can impact on corruption because you know, like in a situation whereby you don't have the resources to actually implement or oversee and monitor the controls or whatever measures you have put in place to actually guard against corruption, it can impact on corruption. Because at the end of the day, the lack of resources, you can be talking the human resources, you can even be talking the financial resources, because you know where the financial resources are a bit scarce, you know, like you'd get those that would try to, you know, take the little that is there. But again, on the organization, the lack of the financial resources, you won't be able to put in place those measures, those controls, because some of them, if you are talking of automating, they would need you to have funds to actually buy those systems or, you know, secure those systems so that you are able to deter corruption. And human resources, yes, to a certain extent, that can also impact on how you fight corruption, because basically there are instances where you actually need the bodies to monitor and see that whatever measures are there to prevent corruption, they're actually working or they are in place. And then the second one, the overstaying of accounting officer, how it impacts on corruption. I would actually I have a different view on that, because I would say where you reach the level of accounting officer, and like the name says, you should be accountable. You should be at a level whereby at the end of the day, no matter how long you stay, it shouldn't actually make you now to, you know, throw, just throwing caution to the wind and just say no, because I've been part of the system, because you are there as the gatekeeper. No matter how long you stay, you should always be the gatekeeper. You should maintain the same standards, the same principles. So for me, the overstay or like you staying in one place for a long time, it shouldn't change the way you look at issues regarding corruption or even fraud, or making sure that principles are upheld, especially in the area of corruption. So for that, I would have a different view, that it shouldn't actually, influence them or cause them to change and be part of the, not ensuring that things are in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AG Botswana and the AG Somalia. CEO, as you come in and close, also attend to the question, how does AAAG itself defend the African countries from the corruption perception in the track? Mr. Frederick Riaga.
Thank you, Bruce. Let me start off by that question on how AAAG would position itself as a defender of the African continent. What we've just gone through is one such way, through knowledge sharing and experience sharing on how to deal with this menace. We can also position ourselves within the policy space in terms of informing public policy, informing public policy and public laws that are defined or are put in place to entrench ethical behavior. So in a nutshell, that point number 3, we can also come in, and we were looking at creating a pool of frameworks that can aid in terms of gauging and monitoring corruption across systems that would then be used by officers of the accountants general as they track payments through the system to ensure that the payments land in the intended votes and for the purposes for which they were budgeted for. So in a nutshell, those would be the summary of interventions that the AAAG can then propose. Ladies and gentlemen, beyond that, I think the fight against corruption is not just a singular office responsibility. It cuts across. We, at the beginning, Mr. Jaguar did tell us that corruption permeates through the entire ecosystem, be it public sector, be it private sector. And against our fears, he disabused the notion that the public sector is more corrupt than the private sector. And then for every corruption that is perpetrated, any fraud that is perpetrated within the public sector, there is we need to gauge. You need to gauge it on both the supply and the demand side. Whilst public sector demands corruption, private sector supplies it. So we must then have a collective conversation around how best we can then deal with these monies. As accountants, we sit or we occupy a very pivotal role or position in as far as dealing with corruption. Through the presentation, it has been underscored that weak systems, weak accountability systems, weak internal checks and balances, systems of internal controls, those would facilitate perpetration of corruption. And consequently, our role as accountants, because we are the people who put in place systems of internal controls, we are the people who define systems on to track and manage money. We are the people in charge of the most liquid, which is the most liquid asset that is sought after by every other fellow who seeks to defraud organizations, cash. We therefore must do our utmost best to ensure that we curb these problems. We can do so by undertaking continuous risk assessment, as it has been demonstrated to us. But in ending, ladies and gentlemen, we must have conversations on how well we can collaborate, not just amongst ourselves, but with players within the organizations that we manage or run, to ensure that fraud is then dealt with. Remember, it has been indicated that about 67% of fraud is internally perpetrated. These are the people who appreciate the weaknesses within the system. How then do we move to sealing such loopholes to ensure that all the resources that are budgeted for go into the intended use? We thank you for coming through. Permit me to appreciate the presenters, Mr. Yakodi Jaguar, the CEO of Certified Fraud Examiners South Africa. Also, permit me also to acknowledge and thank Ms. Taboho Tumango, the Accountant General of the mighty Republic of Botswana. Then, of course, Mr. Abdirahman Anas, the Accountant General of the Federal Government of Somalia. Whilst the sessions were going on, I saw the Accountant General of Zambia joining this session, and we also want to thank her for creating time to come. Let me take this opportunity just to bring to your attention that the AAAG Annual Conference 2025 was officially launched and registration is on course. The conference themed Africa of Tomorrow seeks your participation, seeks your partnership to make it a success. It will be held in the beautiful city of Accra, Ghana, starting on 24th of November through 28th of November. As I've indicated, registration is ongoing. I kindly request you to log into conference.AAAG.Africa to register, from which you'll get a letter of invite and an invoice to facilitate your payment processes. We indeed look forward to seeing you in Accra so that we continue with conversations around such topical issues of illicit financial flows, fraud, which are listed amongst the topics that we will be discussing. Otherwise, for now, we thank you for creating time to join us. The materials that have been shared will be distributed to yourselves. You'll also get a certificate through the email that enable you to access the sessions today for purposes of seeking your CPD hours from your respective professional accountancy organizations. Otherwise, thank you so much, and I wish you well even as we get into the weekend. Let's have a restful weekend, even as we gear to coming back to put in place systems that will help us mitigate fraud-related risks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend.